Everybody, welcome to One Set. My name is Anthony Irvin.
What's up, everybody? How we doing?
This is my co-host, Jim Green. This has been a year in the making.
It's really been 23 years in the making. Who wants to tell it? You or me? I don't know. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? How we doing? It is Tuesday on our end, January 18th, 2022. We are filming episode 3 of One Set. It's Green and Magic. I am your co-host, Jim Green, alongside with my best friend and brother, Anthony Irvin. Anthony, what's going on, my man? How are you?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm
Happy Tuesday once more.
Once more.
Is that a word?
And once more? I think it's two words. We are back on a Tuesday night, thank goodness, because last week on Wednesday.
Oh, that last week was a doozy.
all of the technology things. Yeah.
All things that could have gone wrong went wrong. But we still got it uploaded at like the last, at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I got it uploaded on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, good. Everything is clean. Everything's ready to go. It was just crazy because then we got the Zoom.
And that was on Thursday night.
Yeah, that was Thursday night because I had just exported it out of the video software, and it was like 12 o'clock at night. Then I'm like, okay, hopefully YouTube will be a little more forgiving and only be a couple minutes. And thankfully, YouTube only took maybe like 15 minutes for it to upload, and then, got all the credentials, everything on there. So thank you, YouTube, for not letting me stay up for another 6 hours.
Yeah, thanks for not being such a CB like some other platforms. Anyway.
How was your weekend, man?
You know what? It was set to be a stacked weekend, right? I was initially, I thought I had rehearsal up in Limerick Saturday morning, and then had to teach from 12 to 2. I wound up having a virtual lesson that was set from 2:45 to 3:45, and my family, my side of my immediate family was scheduled to do our Christmas party at my parents'.
Awesome.
At 4 o'clock. I actually wound up not getting scheduled for the rehearsal Saturday morning, and my private lesson that I had, my virtual lesson that I had, set for 2:45 to 4, found out that their dance team practice got moved to 2 o'clock. So I said, okay, well, I'm actually free to do 11 or 10 to 11. I had to leave at 11 to get the blue bell. And then that offered me more wiggle time after I was done teaching at 2 to get home. I had a couple things left to wrap.
Yeah.
Because I look, yeah, wait until the last minute, that's fine. But I was just waiting for it to get postponed again because you just don't know.
Exactly.
So once I knew Saturday morning everyone was good to go, I was like, okay, I got a couple things to wrap before the party, and it just worked out that way that I didn't have the Limerick rehearsal. So that was my Saturday. Sunday, as you know, your boy got baptized, right?
He did. It was a very special moment. This has been something my wife, Jen, has really been looking forward to doing because we wanted to do it earlier when he was maybe like 6 months old, but with COVID, we weren't too sure of bringing a whole group of people around, and at that time, you couldn't really have a big group of people, so we just waited on it, and back in the fall, we started thinking, okay, maybe we should, start getting it scheduled. So we scheduled it, and with everything starting back up, we're like, what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But thankfully, everything worked out, and it was a very special moment. We had, our family with us. Unfortunately, my parents couldn't be there. They were under the weather, but we were able to get you to video record and my aunt to record the baptism. And we just got them the videos, so they watched it. So everybody got to watch the video. Then we had a luncheon, and my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and our niece came up from Florida, and we only really get to see them once or twice a year. So it's always really nice when they're able to come up, and it was an all around fun weekend. But it's always push and go because you're always doing one thing after another. So,
Mhm.
today going back to work, it was just like, okay, like you can breathe, but then you're like, okay, now you got to get into work mode.
Yeah, it's always switching gears, right?
Yeah, it's usually tough, but that's the way of life. Time keeps on going. You just gotta you know keep it up. Time's not gonna stop for you.
Yeah, don't stop for nobody.
No,
You
it really
gotta
don't.
you gotta run with it the best that you can. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I think as you get older, you tend to look at time a little bit more in different ways of like you're getting older and you learn to time manage a little bit better and work around certain things where like when you're a kid, what do you really need to worry about? You don't have any bills. You just go outside, do your homework, hang out with friends, go home to a hot cooked meal, go to sleep, and then go back home, go to bed, go to school. So
Dude,
when you're adulting, that's like ugh, you have to. Everybody's done it. So
I think it's um, important to also point out that we don't have to time manage as kids because our parents are doing it for us.
yes, that's the
they're
best. Yeah, that's the best
yeah
thing.
they're,
They're just like, oh,
they're
what are we doing
building.
today?
They're the ones that like basically encouraged whatever activities that we had or didn't
Yeah,
participate in. Um, so I know like for you, you had sports.
right.
Uh, you were growing up through that. Um,
Yeah, it was definitely
and
a big thing for me and younger because I did play baseball younger as a kid. I didn't really. I did try out for the baseball team in high school. I did not make it. I was not a great baseball player. Basketball was more my sport. I played that all the way up till senior year, and
well, I respect you. I respect you for being able to at least say I didn't make it. I wasn't like super savvy in baseball, rather than oh they should have taken me. Well, no,
and
you
I
you
wasn't
could at
really
least own up
scared
to it.
not to try it because I mean I did play t-ball and little league and all that when I was a kid, but I knew baseball wasn't my all around favorite sport, but it was something uh, that at least every kid is always fun to really get involved with at least try one sport and that's the same way like with little man. I mean it'll be fun to get him into at least some type of extracurricular activity of sports. He's starting to kind of kick a ball or something, and excuse me, he's getting into those things. So it'll be cool to see what he picks up.
Yeah, I I think I mentioned in episode one, and I forget if I backtracked this last week because I said I played t-ball in fifth and sixth grade and little league in seventh, and then I was like, you don't play t-ball in sixth grade. I was 5, 6, and 7 years old, respectively. So I was like 5 years behind what I mentioned.
Right.
Um, but I actually um, I got really interested in basketball. Um, I want to say like fifth grade and into middle school. The Sixers were hot. I mean, Allen
Yeah.
Iverson. When we were in the eighth grade, that's when the Sixers were in the championship with the Lakers.
Yeah.
So I had like I my dad had gotten me a net for my backyard, and I'd play. I I remember playing that more. I know as like a 5, 6, and 7 year old, um, that I played more baseball because I was in a league. Like my dad had catches with me. It was like that was like his father son time that he
Yeah.
had with me.
Now you didn't play any, you know, you didn't play in any leagues. You just kind of, shot around and just did,
Um, so Aston Middletown Little League. was where I played. I played t-ball for 2 years
I
there.
do remember you did play baseball like not when I say legit, you mean you played like on a like an actual like sports team, but like
In kids
basketball you didn't
leagues.
do that though, right?
No. I
Okay,
just did that recreationally at home, or if I was playing with you and your brother,
right.
from times here to there. But like you guys played like in leagues, so like you guys were
Yeah.
trained in technique. I just took the ball, dribbled it, and knew not to double dribble and aimed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Try to not look like a goober.
Yeah, yeah.
My brother was and is still a lot better than me though. You know, he idolized Kobe Bryant, and
Influence. Yeah.
I was idolized, or I idolized Michael Jordan, and
Mm,
the two of them are masks of each other,
yeah.
and still to this day I cannot believe Kobe is still not with us. It still boggles my mind he's not with us today.
It's crazy you mentioned that because Cheyenne and I, we were just watching a bunch of uh, what is that show called? My goodness, America's Got Talent. I should
Yeah.
know. um, and there was this guy on there. He was 52, and he had 3 kids, and he sang "Against All Odds" by Phil Collins. And um, before he sang the song, and I've "In the Air Tonight" was one of my solos in high school by Phil. So
Right.
I got to know some of his work a little bit, and that's probably my second favorite. I There was a lot of his that I like, but
Yeah.
I've probably listened to that one the most because it was similar uh, in a way. But the guy that was singing "Against All Odds," uh, his wife died in the helicopter with Kobe.
Really.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. So
wow.
that killed me. I was like, oh man. Um, but yeah, it's just funny that you just mentioned that, and I had
Yeah,
just seen that
I
with it
didn't know
days
that. I mean,
ago.
I knew there was a lot. I knew the other families that perished in there, but I didn't know that. I didn't hear about that connection. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't hear of any other people that were connected to that tragedy itself until that, and
Yeah.
um, and that really got me. This guy's taking care of 3 kids going forward. You just hear things like that, and it's just unreal to even imagine. You know.
Yeah, and especially having a kid at the time, it hits you differently than when you're just watching it as a regular person. But when you have kids, you're just like when you say like I'm definitely holding my kids a little extra tighter tonight. Like I
Mhm.
definitely understand when people are saying that now. It's like because life can be done in an instant, and we never know when our clock is up. But that's why at least for my sake, I try to live as positive of a lifestyle as I can because I know things can be taken away from you in an instant. So you kind of have to just cherish what you have, and with me with music, it's always been something that I take very passionate with what I do because I know you know it can be taken away from me in an instant, and so whatever I do with it, I try to put my all in it whatever I do with music.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I mean, you would dance. Let's kind of. I know we wanted to get more into your background of your dance crew, Point Blank, and how that got started. Because I've seen you guys a couple times. I know, like obviously you and a couple of the crew members, but maybe you can give our audience a little bit more of a background to how Point Blank came about, what made like how did you guys come up with Point Blank? So because I know a little bit of the story, but I would love to hear more of like how it all began.
Sure. So right after we graduated in 2005, my studio director had received like a promo, like uh, flyer rather,
Right.
for an audition for um, an independent record label um, based out of Philly, and they had artists signed to the label, but they also, excuse me, they had the backup dancers signed so that they were like, okay, so if they had 3 or 4 artists that they were representing at the time, or groups
Right.
rather, because I think they had a couple solo acts and then maybe a duet trio, and then I think like a small group um, that they were managing. The company was managing them rather. They were like, if we want dancers for these 4, solo artists or groups or whatever, we should just secure the dancers and then move them around to whichever artist that we need, depending on their bookings.
Right.
So when I got picked up, when I auditioned and I got the call that I made it in, it was like right out of high school. I was like, oh, cool, I'm part of this company. Like, and I hadn't known or heard too much about them at the time, but I was like, all right, I guess, like, because I was going to school for like to be a math teacher at the time. And then I picked this up, and it like in September or October, uh, after we graduated, in I attended a few of the rehearsals. We got set. We did one performance at the beginning of December at like a nightclub, and I was just doing backup dancing in like a show at a nightclub, just to try to help promote the company a little bit. I guess it worked because, well, and we'll get there down the line because
Yeah.
I gotta CBS again real quick. Um, I wound up tearing my meniscus like 2 weeks after the show.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I knew something was off. I'd had my first trip to LA booked. I was going to go to LA for the first time to start training. Like, I was on the go, and then I got, you know, I hit a roadblock. I hit an obstacle. So the MRI came back, and they were like, we need to repair this. It's not like a simple go in and shave off the tear kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you're probably going to need stitches once we go in there. So I needed a cross tear. I needed a cross tear. I had a cross tear. I needed 2 vertical stitches and 1 horizontal. Um, and after the fact, the company was reaching out. Hey, we've got this thing coming up soon. Like, are you going to be good? I'm like, I'm going to be off my feet for 6 to 8 months. I mean, it wound up being way shorter than that.
Right.
I don't know if it was my age or the injury was severe, but I rehabbed it the best that I could. Um, I was also competing with the studio that I grew up at my freshman year as well. Kind of the in your eyes thing we talked about.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not ready to hang this up yet. So I was like, I think I got 1 more year left in me. And that's totally an allowed thing. I think you can compete when you're 20, but like the thing with that is the way that they handle the age groups for the entries
Uh-huh.
is they take the average age of all the dancers.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not gonna go in and be this 20-year-old guy and pull the average up to put the younger ones at a disadvantage. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say, have my time and I'm ready to go after this one. Which actually worked out in a lot of uh, ways, but we're not talking about that right now. Intermission, real quick. Just going to make this a quick one for today. Cheers, my friend. I believe
Cheers,
you
brother.
have a blue moon
I
today.
am tearing down a blue moon tonight, brother.
Very
What are you?
nice.
What are you doing? What are you drinking?
Uh, this one, I know I had some Tito's last week. I have actually Sky Vod today. Um, and instead of mommy's water, I have just regular water. But I also use like Mio's or like the flavor additives thing. I got a little bit of flavoring in there to kind of help pull out the bite from the VOD. So that is the move for today. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, brother. Cheers to our audience. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode. Make sure you like and subscribe to our Facebook, our Instagram, YouTube, and make sure you guys are giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Sharing with a friend is always helpful for us to, get us into some new ears and, grow our audience. So thank you guys for the continued support. Really means a lot to us. And if you guys want to email us with any questions you may have, any thing you want to maybe talk about and give us some topics you would want us to talk about during on a next episode, you can email us at setpod@gmail.com. So those are our ads for the moment.
All good. All right. So the knee injury, because that happened right after the company performance that I had for the backup artist, right?
Right.
So that was, let's see, my surgery was January of 2006. So I did not continue with the company after the fact. They needed to get other healthy dancers that were ready to go, because of my recovery period and all that stuff.
Right.
Fast forward to February of 2008. I think it's poetic and important to note that the Monster shirt that I'm wearing from Monsters of Hip Hop, which was the company that I used to tour with to help like with set up a breakdown and train. I got the train free of tuition. I was actually nominated for their year-end finals performance, which we can dive into that another time. That is a whole other long story, and I think there's a lot that I can get into with that. So I'm definitely just going to stick on the point blank thing for today, just to not make this episode 4 hours. So I had just gotten nominated for the finals to be casted for their year-end show, and it was at even that time a very big deal, even to get nominated, let alone get casted. And I wound up being nominated 3 more times after the fact. But after my first nomination, I really started like diving into, MySpace was where everything was, okay, at the time. I can't say everything because Facebook did start, I believe, in 2004. But I think Facebook was still in the college-only phase of social media. Yeah. Like it wasn't open to everyone, and if it was, like you had to be 18, so it wasn't.
And I remember you showing
everyone.
me Facebook. I remember you showing me Facebook for the first time. I'm like, what is this? You're like, yeah, dude, it's like something for like college kids, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Now, like you think of it, like, oh, I want to have a Facebook. Like, every kid like wants to have a Facebook now.
Yeah, we'll have to do like a social media breakdown of like the time lapse,
right?
Because we can talk about it because
when everything began,
when everything started. Yeah, the kids, the teenagers, not a clue.
No,
these days it's amazing because I say some things like to the students I teach. I was like, yeah, when I was at your age, Facebook wasn't even a thing yet. And they're like, what? I was like, right. Yeah,
you have no clue.
We can talk about that. February 2008, back on topic. So I'm on MySpace after the nomination. I'm adding all the dancers that I find in the local area. I'm adding. I'm just adding. I'm going add happy, and I'm like, I want to be able to see, and also expose, because that's important, right?
Right.
Um, so another dancer that I knew had reached out to me once I added him, and he was like, "Hey, are you going to the audition next weekend for said artist that I used to back up for that company?"
Right.
So when I was in that company, the choreographer at the time, I just knew him as the choreographer.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't acquainted on that level yet. But then I decide, okay, I'm like in a dance high at the time after the nomination. I was like, I'm going to go to the audition for the music video. It was for a music video. Okay. So I go to the audition and I walk in, and there is the old choreographer and some other gentleman that I haven't met before.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a week after the audition, I get the call that I made the call for the music video. If I can track down that video, I will put it on. Like, I'll try to upload it to our Instagram for our followers to be able to catch the footage.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Even our Facebook page too. We'll figure it out. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. So it was like 2-3 days after my 21st birthday. I think it was March 2nd of 2008. We shoot the video. It's an all-day thing. A lot of fun. And then I had heard from the two guys that led the audition. So America's Best Dance Crew was wrapping, or had just wrapped up season 2, I think. And they were trying to get a crew together, right? So they basically low-key mentioned it just to gauge my interest, and I was like, you should let me dance with you. Like, I'll work if I'm not up to your standards, because they did like choreograph and judge you up. They were 3 to 6 years older than me. So I was just 21. Like I wasn't like established yet. Right. They saw potential, but they knew I'd have to work. And so they were able to secure 2 other dancers, and July 5th, we did our debut at a club in Philly. We were opening for one of the top 3 finalists on America's Best Dance Crew Season 1, named Cabo Modern. Mm-hmm. And we did our first performance there. And for, again, we had a 20-foot long stage, and I was set to do a round off tuck. I ate it.
Was I at that one? I remember we did like some type of. There was some other type of, maybe it was later down the road, but I remember there was like a grand opening in Philly that you did, or with either the dance crew or something. But maybe it might be.
So we're getting to that one, because I recall specifically, I think the one that you're talking about.
Okay.
My one friend that we used to throw in the air.
Yeah.
Was he at that one?
Maybe.
Because I'm pretty sure we did that at the one, because your mom came to that one.
Okay. So then, yeah, it might have been that one.
So that's going down. That's probably 4 years after the fact.
Okay. All right.
So we did I did the round off tuck, and I ate it so bad, like, because I didn't have enough room to like hit the round off, hit the tuck, and like get the rotation out of it.
Yeah.
I could do round off tucks, but I needed a long run to get the momentum to get that height. So in a tight quarters, I wasn't solid on that. Some people can do it like with barely any room. I wasn't there yet.
Right.
I after that, I practiced in case I had to do that, and then I could do it in the tight quarters. Good thing I didn't break my other collarbone, or the same one again.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, no, that was fun. And then we wound up auditioning for America's Best Dance Crew season 3 in October of 2008, and then we wound up auditioning again in June of 2009. It was like my studio had their second annual recital on the Friday and the Saturday, and so the crew got to debut in front of like my dance family at the time
Right.
that Saturday night. And then people were like, oh my God, you guys are great. I mean, not, and it wasn't even just in the gesture of like, oh, y'all are great. It was like people were really behind us.
Really taking it back.
Yeah. And then, because we used to do like, we used to host a cast party after the second night recital. So we went to the cast party, but then the next morning, I had the audition up in New York. So, yeah, but that was when like the first audition we grabbed, we were able to acquire a couple. No, the first performance we had a couple girls, and then the first audition it was a guy and one girl, and then the second audition it was 7 guys. The third audition that we did, yeah, when we didn't make season 4, a few of the guys dipped because they were like, well, if this ain't it, we're out, kind of thing. Right. And it was like, all right. We were also going, like, we all lived super far away, so it was hard to really coordinate like scheduling, practicing all together that like was sensible.
Yeah.
So afterwards we were like, okay, well, we need other players to come into the picture. So we grabbed a couple more dancers, and by the time season 5 rolled around, it was like the guys that I had initially linked up with, which I didn't even talk about. Like, I remember about where we were. I'm not familiar with the area only because I'm not from New Jersey, and that's where my one buddy lived. So after we got together to practice,
right,
and we went out to discuss like, okay, well, if we're going to do this crew thing, we need a name.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like it took us maybe an hour to settle in on the name because we had a couple of other options on the table, but we kept staring at the one, which was Point Blank, which, everyone's like, why Point Blank? And we just wanted to be like, we want to be straightforward to the point. We don't want to be cryptic with right. What we're like, which creatively, if you are, and I know I like to do the Easter egg thing in a lot of my stuff now, where it's like, oh, did you catch this? Did you catch this? Their thing was they just wanted to be very like in your face, to the point. Like, we want to present ourselves as is. We didn't want our gimmick to ever change. I don't mean gimmick in a disrespectful way either, if that makes sense. But that was just we thought that the name had a good ring. And it did. It was something, it was a familiar phrase that people knew.
Yeah.
So I think that was the backstory on the reason how we got to the name. It wasn't anything like super wild. We just wrote not even 10 things down, and we eliminated like 3 immediately. We kept 3. And then the middle 3, we were like, does this ring? Does this ring? There were a couple other things that we liked.
What was one of the names that you didn't pick that you maybe like your second or third that you were on? Like, what were one of the second or third names you had?
So, I mean, it was one of the ones that I liked a lot, only because iPods were big at the time, and iPhones were just coming to fruition. Yeah. So we entertained iDance, but we didn't know if we get in trouble. like for using the little I and then
True.
danced after the fact.
True.
And we were also like, well, if we're a crew, do we really want to use the number I? And I'm like, yeah, but iPods and like the whole Mac legacy of it's a global conglomerate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it to me wasn't like if we're a team, we shouldn't have like, and I think that was one of their drawbacks with it, which is fine. Like, I get it.
Right.
We wanted something that represented a team idea, which Point Blank doesn't really carry. I think it was more so, it was the most catchy of everything that we had.
Yeah.
I think Full Frontal was one of them. Should we edit that out? It was a joke.
It was
okay.
a joke.
We were just
it's a joke,
joking around.
people. It's a joke, people.
It was literally something on the table. It wasn't something that I'm just making up right now. We were like, would people actually bite into this? Like, that to me sounds like a band's name. Like a band could be called Full Frontal.
It's almost like a cover band's name. Like, you're
right.
It's a comedic thing, but you guys are trying to be, because I know, like, you guys, like, in your dance routines, you always like to have like some type of joking moment in there to kind of make the audience laugh. And that's what I always liked about you guys. Like, you were serious in your routines, but you always like to have that one moment to make the audience laugh. Because, you know, I'm not fluent in a lot of the dance routines and dance crews, but I know some crews are like that. They'll have like a moment of like, oh, okay, funny moment, then they get back into their routine. But like, I know you guys, like, that was like your thing. Like, you wanted to have that comedic aspect in your routines, and you know, having that type of name would have been like, you know, the name's funny, but we want to be kept serious. But, you know, we have some comedic aspects in our routines, and that would kind of like put a little bit more aspect on than why you guys thought of that name, if it were to be that name. But even Point Blank, you know, it's still, like you said, it still has a catchy tune to it to be like, okay, I mean, let's see what these guys are all about.
Yeah, and it did wind up working out because, you know, saying we're straightforward to the point, this is who we are, Point Blank. We were able to influence the choreography with the comedic flair. That was something that we were passionate about, because we, as time went on, and look, there's balance to everything, right? There's a time for work and there's a time for play. Right. And I know if any one of the members ever listens to this, me saying, you know, we had more fun than we worked. So if things didn't go as far as we had hoped, and we'll get back to that too. You know, in hindsight, it's, you know, we definitely didn't get down to work as, and not to say, I think it's important to acknowledge too that we spent a lot of time on the creative end of trying to build the pieces. So, like the drilling,
gotcha.
There wasn't a lot of time allotted for the drilling, and that's why sometimes we would look not tight or clean, you know. Gotcha. So a lot of the creativity and a lot of what we did was, it would stem from, like, even if we were just messing around having fun at rehearsals, we would be like, how do we incorporate that into the set,
right?
You know. So again, it was a lot. You know, we had a lot of fun there, especially we got to, goodness, 2010 to 2013 was probably when we hit our prime. 2010 we had picked up two girls then, and then 2011 was kind of a weird year because the guys that led the audition were traveling and doing backup a lot for the artists that I rotate in and out with them.
Right.
So things were happening, and then things were not really happening that year. Um, 2012, things started kicking into high gear, and we picked up 2 more guys by then.
Mm-hmm.
No, we picked. I think about this. 2010, we picked up the 2 girls. We also picked up another young gentleman. He was still in high school, someone that I was training growing up.
Uh-huh.
And then one of the initial choreographers of that audition, that the music video audition, his brother came into the fold. So in 2012, we had a band of 7 that were 5 of us guys and the 2 girls. And what had happened is we missed the 2005. Oh, maybe this was it. I'm getting some things. 2011 is, I think, when we did it was the winter. The winter of 2011, I think. We did the America's Best Dance Crew audition for season 6. Because at the time of season 5, there wasn't a solid cohesiveness as to who was part of the group at the time.
Gotcha.
We had just acquired another guy, but there was just no way that we could have gotten a routine together and gotten it tight and ready. And there were disagreements there, because it's like, one of the opinions was, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Why don't we just do it?
Exactly.
But the other opinion was like, the audition is soon, and we don't have anything prepared, and we don't exactly live together or right next door or have the same even work schedules. We just don't. Like, finding the time to meet was hard. Fortunately, we always had a location, which was like my studio at the time.
Exactly.
But
Right.
it was somewhat central most of the time, but sometimes I knew, the guys that came down from Philly or over from New Jersey, it's kind of like, why don't they, they don't have to travel to us, but there was also not a space near them most of the time, like, to accommodate our rehearsals. That made sense scheduling, because if a couple of the guys were working for a shift and they got off work and I was teaching till 9 o'clock, they could travel to me after work while I was still teaching, versus if they needed me to come their way, I wouldn't get to them until 10:30. And then you just lost an hour, which time is precious, like you said. So the season 6 audition was the 3 girls and the 3 guys, which was an interesting, like, we had like a balance in that front. And it was probably our best shot, although the one girl was someone that a couple of us had grown up dancing with, and she was going to school out in LA. So we had to fly her in, teach her everything. And she's great. She's a fast learner. She handled it fine. It was funny. She got into town and we got hit with a snowstorm. So she was at her parents', and the 5 of us were all at my parents', and we went to go leave to pick her up to go to the studio to practice overnight to get everybody caught up on everything.
Right.
And we couldn't get a car out of my development.
Oh.
So I had to walk and meet her halfway.
Oh, geez.
And then we had to rehearse in my parents' living room, which wasn't, it was conducive because we were all together. But again, one of those things where, like, as a band, could you imagine picking up someone and saying, okay, we got a show next week and we need to get you caught up on everything? It was essentially kind of like that. But same thing. Even if they're great, it's just like, the other five of us have been dancing together for a couple
Oh
of
yeah.
years. The season 4 audition would have been in June of 2009. So then the season 5 one must have been in early 2010, like 6 months later, and then another 10 months. Yeah, that would make sense if it was all timed out consistently. If you're going to from June of 2009 to like December of 2010,
Mm-hmm.
you're 18 months apart. So the season 5 audition must have been something more like March, which actually fits like in my head with where I remember people being. And I say this because it's weird because I know where my hair was at certain times. And that's why I'm like, okay, I remember it was okay, this works, I think. So maybe that audition was okay. There were 2 seasons that they did where it was like almost back to back, like they barely had a break. So this can work, unless if it was no, because of the weather, because of the snow thing I just said. It must have been season 6. Basically, they were wrapping up season 5 and they wanted season 6 to be in the works because it
Right.
was getting a lot of hype. My mom complains about the light switch being in the shot, so try to slide. So I think they did the season 7 audition in the late winter. That sounds right, because I had one of my Monsters conventions was the same weekend as the audition. And I sorry guys if you're seeing this, but it's pretty true. At that point, we had auditioned 3 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we kept getting to the final table for consideration, or so the directors were telling us.
Right.
And we're basically like, you guys don't have a story that's going to resonate with the audience, because that's what reality TV, that's how they cast, right?
Yep.
So I was like, I'm going to this convention. I don't know if it was a convention or if my studio had a competition. It might have been that, and it was the first one of the year. So if it was a competition for my studio, like I definitely wasn't missing that. If it was a convention and it was a for me thing, I may have opted to just be like, if you guys go and you make it without me, maybe I was the problem. But what had happened was one of the dancers auditioned for one of the PB, the point blank dancers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He auditioned with us season 2, and then wound up auditioning with them season 7 without me. And I don't know if it was the day after or the week after, there was an audition for So You Think You Can Dance, and he auditioned and he made it to Vegas. So he breached, there's a contract that you have to fill out when you audition or when you apply for these TV shows.
Right.
And it's like, you can't be on TV with another thing for after 12 months. So the fact that he made it to Vegas, he basically turned around to the rest of us and was like, going to Vegas, sorry. Blip that out. At that point, he was the designated leader of our band or our crew. He turned to me and was like, I talked to the directors and they said, since so and so breached his contract and he couldn't get on the show, they said if we had someone to replace him. So without having to audition, all I had to do was fill out the paperwork to say I'm good to go if they get in.
Right.
So I didn't even have to audition. They still didn't get in on the same merit. The story's not there because we just wanted to be like, we're guys and we dance. We didn't want to, make a big to do over like storyline, but that's what the casting directors want.
These days. Everybody wants to be, everybody wants to hear a story. Everybody wants to connect with a story, but which is understandable. I mean, you gotta have to have that kind of aspect when it comes to TV. Nobody wants to hear somebody like, oh yeah, I mean, I woke up and I wanted to be a dancer, and here I am.
Right.
I mean, people can connect, but more people want to hear like a come up story. Like I came up from this, I was doing this, and I was at my lowest point, and it brought me here today, and this is what I'm doing. Like people can relate to that. They love the gushy, like come up stories.
Well, and I was not savvy on reality TV up to that point because like primetime television was on when I was at dance. So like understanding that concept was not something that I was at. Like my So You Think You Can Dance story, which I think we got into on episode 1. If we didn't, we could save it for a different time. But they were like, once I was moving along in the process and like I wound up going to Vegas and all that stuff, they were like, okay, what's your story? They basically just sat there and were like, all right, let's hear your story. Like I needed to have one. And I sat there and I was like, my story is I dance. Like I have things in my life, but like I like at that time I didn't have anything like monumentally damaging, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what they look for.
That's really what they do. It's like I said, it's unfortunate, but that's what they look for,
Yeah. So let's get this point blank thing wrapped up with. I mean, after that, we really started hitting our stride a lot. I wound up going out to LA that summer for a considerable amount of time. A group of us rented a house, trained up a lot. That's another story. And driving to LA and back is a fun story.
Yeah.
It's I mean, not everybody gets to say that they drive across the country and back. But I think it was over the course of between like June of 2012, or I'd say May, because that's when we got my buddy's brother to hop in. And that 7 that we had will go down as probably the strongest of us as a whole.
Right.
We had so many weapons. But again, we just spent a lot of time creating. And it was tough to generate like a real schedule for drilling that tightened us up to make sure that we were all on the same page from an execution perspective. We were all on the same page for the most part, as far as like how seriously that we took what we were doing.
Right.
Some deviations left, right, up, down, all around. However, because being adults, same with bands.
Yeah.
You gotta budget your time in.
Yeah.
But it was just a matter of, I think we enjoyed each other's company as friends, more than we took serious to the fact. And I'm not speaking on everyone's behalf. I'm just saying this is my perspective overall of what I saw. There would be frustrations like we need to get to work. We aren't drilling.
Right.
And there were also apprehensions of like, we don't need the drill. And it's like, well, by the time we did, probably one of my favorite shows was in Virginia Beach. We like closed off my studio's dance competition and like the ending ceremony. The five of us did. Not all of us can make it, but the five of us that were there, we had all been doing it. For quite some time. Uh, the one girl couldn't make it, and then the one guy couldn't make it. But the other five of us, we've been doing it for quite a while, and
Right.
I think the response, like the standing ovation that we got at the end, I think is something that none of us will ever forget. But that was, yeah, that was like the last time we got a response on that front, in front of the crowd that we did in the theater that we did. The place was massive.
Right.
And then Las Vegas 2014 was when we did Hip Hop International. And anyone that wants to know how long you should go to Las Vegas for, 10 days. I made it to day 9. I was okay day 10. It's just busy. It's so much. We want to talk about concerts. This is the best way to like segue it because,
Okay.
yeah, so the four of us, and there was also another buddy of ours. He lived in Baltimore, so he couldn't be with us consistently, but he would jump in here and there. And then he moved out to San Diego. So it was just a matter of getting to practice with him. And again, we had a group dynamic where it was just, and like things like Zoom and like just meeting with people and even dance through Zoom.
Right.
Don't get me started, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity to be able to do virtual meetings like this, like 8 years ago now, right? I mean, there might have been Skype, but the rate of like return wasn't quite strong to do virtual dancing through.
Yeah.
So we did that. That was probably the one big thing that the initial choreographers from the audition I did in 2008 yearned to do, and it was something that they would bring up a lot. And to me, it was, if we're going to Vegas, I want to go and do well.
Right.
And again, just not all the puzzle pieces were there. So we went. It's not like we placed last in the U.S. round, but once we did get there, we were ready to work until we were done, until we were eliminated. Essentially, we did the trip after that. And again, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I am saying we did go, and we weren't just like party, go on stage.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. Okay.
Right.
So after that, Point Blank was still a pretty big staple in at my dance studio. Every year we would still do a performance. We actually would do workshops with the kids at my studio and welcome them into the routine and position them into, like, we would basically open the piece, and then each of us would take a lead on a
Yeah.
section and say we want these dancers for our part, and then at the end we would all culminate to a finale. And it was always like a really fun thing to do after the fact. But I think after Vegas, it was kind of like, okay, point blank as far as going out there and doing our thing. And like we traveled to Jersey, we traveled to New York, we traveled to Delaware, Maryland. We
Hmm.
took a trip to Chicago. That was really fun. We got a lot of memories from that one.
Hmm.
And that was about at the time when we were in our prime, so it was fun.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. We've been up to Boston. Um, we did a charity tour where we traveled around locally, and then the two initial guys traveled down the East Coast and over and flew to LA. And I think we taught at least at across 20 studios, and we took all the funds and we donated it to I honestly don't remember the charity at the moment, but it was all for a good cause.
That's great. And I
Yeah,
do
I
gotta
mean,
say the in the recitals with having the kids in there with the dance crew numbers, that was definitely a fun thing that I looked forward to in the recitals watching, because it was always like cool to kind of see how you guys incorporated like certain kids, and then you can tell they were excited to kind of be up on the stage with you guys and kind of be a part of it. So you weren't
yeah.
always just making it about you guys. You were trying to put out the kids that get their shining light out there too. So that was always a cool thing to see.
Well, I think we knew. Um, I don't. Maybe I didn't know. Uh, maybe the other two did. And did
Mm-mm.
no, but I think at about the time where we started doing that was when we ourselves were coming to the end of like us being like a band and us doing our thing, and we were like, okay, um let's give back to the next generation. That was like kind of when we started making the move, and that's why we started incorporating them on
Right.
stage with us. And they worked hard for us, those kids did.
That's
And
great.
I knew they all looked forward to it. Their parents would always rave, they couldn't wait for that one. We had a parent one year be like, I mean, I hate to say it, but we would get like that number was like close to the end of the show, and then we would do our finale, and then we'd have people be like, "You should have just let the point blank piece close the show." And it's like we didn't, because we were trying to incorporate all of the faculty, which they weren't all incorporated in point blank, and then we were trying to incorporate all of the other kids that weren't just hip hop dancers
Yeah.
into the closing of the show. So like
Right.
it came with, we were incorporating a lot of, like, we were trying to get the other genres in there too, because the point blank stuff was always primarily hip hop. And yeah, I think the hip hop program at the studio was pretty strong, especially
Right.
it had a lot of the PB influence underneath of it. And kids will work hard throughout the year knowing that the PB routine was a thing that was coming their way at the end of the season.
That's good.
So there was incentive behind that front. Um, so when I got to Vegas, I think what was really cool was like once we were able to treat it as a vacation, knowing like, okay, we're the hard work that we did to get us here um, has paid off on the dance front. The going around, that was, I mean, I saw a good handful of DJs. I don't know if you call them concerts, because like they are residencies,
I would
like
still
at
say
these
they're
clubs.
I mean, the DJs. I would still consider them concerts.
There's lots of people. My
Yeah.
goodness. Diplo and Porter Robinson and Tiesto. Stevie Aoki I saw twice in Atlantic City. I saw Tiesto first, I think, in Atlantic City, and I saw him again uh, out in Vegas. I had the only other event that I went to that had like live DJing that was a concert was Made in America in 2013, and
Yeah.
me and these two guys, um, we got into a pretty fun, not dance off, but just like a little open session thing
Uh-huh.
on a sidewalk, and I was just um, it wound up being a lot more fun than I expected because like it was at like that was August of 2013. I was at a point in my life where like things started getting um yeah, I didn't know where my life was going at that time, and
Uh-huh.
I uh felt pretty lost. So being able to be out and dance with my people and cut loose. I remember that specifically. That was fun. Um I might as well just cut through my concerts real quick and then let you take the run on your end if that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So um I don't call the DJ concerts not concerts. So don't get me wrong. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
they're just different dynamics and
Right.
obviously. Um so you and I went to Warp Tour
Yes.
after we graduated in 2005. We remember our one friend dying of death trying to crowd surf.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh
Well, and when we say that, we mean I'm going to talk about another concert that had a fan base that was much larger people than the scrawny people at Warp Tour because they were just smaller.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not speaking from a size perspective, other than I'm speaking from a strength perspective. So when our buddy that you knew, he was shorter than the both of us, but was stockier, and he's like, "Put me up." He wanted to do
Yeah.
crowd surfing, and when he went up and he came down on his face,
Oh yeah, he ate it
we're
really
we're
good.
going back. We're going back 16 years now, and almost 17,
Yeah.
16 and a half at least. And of course, he went up right at the end of the night, and Atreyu says, "Let's open up the circle pit." And I'm looking at you, and you're holding your friend, and you're trying to like
Because I
get him
think
to.
he had a we all had, I think we
He
all had a
probably
couple
had a
drinks.
concussion.
He
Well,
either we all
he was
had a
out of
couple
it.
drinks or he was out because of that, and he's like dead weight at that point, and I'm trying to keep him up, and the kid's probably like a buck 30, buck 40 at most, and
Yeah,
he just went dead weight on me, and I'm like, okay, you just gained like 100 pounds on me in like 5 seconds, like, and
I
I think
I
Atreyu
remember.
was
Yeah, I
starving.
remember you. I can still see it after all this time. It was wild. I was like, oh my God, he fell right on, he literally face planted right on the concrete. It was bad.
Yeah, but then thankfully he was okay, and
Yeah.
we got out of there okay. It's just the fact that he was taking a good night nap for a good couple minutes, and he eventually just woke up, and we're walking out of the venue, and it was a fun time. But I've been to Warp Tour almost every summer since 2005. I think I've only missed Warp Tour 2 or 3 times. The year that I got married, I think there was 1 or 2 other times that I missed, and I made it the last Warp Tour that was in AC. That was fun because we got to see Blink 182, and that was the first time and only time that I've ever seen Blink 182. unfortunately, I never saw it with Tom, but with what they're saying, Tom is willing to get back with them. But their guitar player that it replaced Tom, they're not getting rid of him. So I think they're probably going to do the thing where they probably do a tour with. I think Matt is the guy that replaced Tom in the band. His old band, Alkaline Trio. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. Uh, so they might both tour at the same time so that they can have both their bands commingle on stage. So it'll be
They
cool.
can jump in and out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for us kids who grew up in the Blink 182 era, the prime area with like all the small things and all that those albums, it'll be fun to see the trio actually get back on stage. And but Warped Tour, I mean, I can go on for hours with Warped Tour memories and favorite bands. I've discovered a lot of my favorite bands that I still listen to this day with Warped Tour. So I can't really specifically talk about a specific Warped Tour other than one of those moments that we just talked about. But when it comes to concerts, I mean, I'll go one, you can go one. But Metallica has been another big concert that I've seen them like 3 or 4 times, and every time I've seen them, they've killed every time, and they never disappoint. Another one that comes to mind that is I was talking about with you off air before we started, Justin Timberlake. And, it's a person I would never really think that I would see, but he just came off of his what was it, the Suit and Tie tour, or Memories, or what was it, the tour at the time?
Well, let me see.
I forget what year. It was
Were you in college or no?
It was 2013 or 2014. I think we were just about to get married within that time. So it was right around
that sounds like that sounds like the 2020 experience.
There you go,
Yeah,
2020
like,
experience tour. So
yeah,
that
that was 2013.
Do gotta say, from an entertainment standpoint, he put on a show. You already know this dude can sing, and but the performance and entertainment aspect was to the T awesome. So I would say that's definitely an awesome concert that I've been to. But if I can put up a little bit more of a memory, I'll have to go and do some searching again and talk about my first concert, which was Lollapalooza with Jane's Addiction. And I think we saw, who else was there? I gotta remember who the other headliner was. I know it was Jane's Addiction and somebody else, but that was my first concert I went to with somebody I was friends with at school with at the one time, and that was my first concert, like live concert experience at the Tweeter Center at the time, and that was fun. And then going to Ozfest the first time with said guy who we were talking about at Warped Tour, and we walked from his house to the Tweeter Center, which we took a bus or a train over there, and we spent the whole day. We had a bottle with us, and we're drinking, going to there and everything, and we saw Dragon Force, we saw Trivium.
I forgot you saw Dragon Force.
Oh yeah, I seen them twice, and they were amazing at the time too. But yeah, I can go on for hours about a lot of concerts that I've been to. But those are, and one more that I gotta say is that this is somebody that I can probably say is the closest I've ever come to seeing Jimi Hendrix. His name is Robin Trower, and
I've heard that name.
He was a guy well known back in like the 70s, but still going strong. And he plays a lot of like the same like psychedelic rock, out there type music that he was really influenced by Jimmy and everything. So when I was watching him, I'm like, holy crap, this is like, if you close your eyes, you would think you were watching Jimmy up there. So
Mhm.
it, and I got to see him twice. I got to see him twice with my dad. So it was that much more inspiring to watch it, because me knowing when I talked about in last episode how I'm a big Jimmy fan, it was cool to see it and experience that with my dad, who brought me into the Jimi Hendrix experience, and to see a guy who took a lot of inspiration from Jimmy and his music. It was definitely a cool moment for me and my dad to, you know, check that guy out. So that was definitely another cool concert that I've been to. So
It's
yeah.
awesome. I just have, I know I already talked about Made in America, at least on the DJ end. Um, I think Two Chains really surprised me because I wasn't like a big fan of his work, but I thought he was like really entertaining on stage.
Right.
Um, and then Dead Mouse, it's weird with him because I love some of his stuff and then I don't care for others. So seeing him in concert, obviously he's got like the light up mask. He's like, it's cool to see, but if you don't enjoy a lot of his music, then it's kind of just like I'm over it. And that's kind of where I was. Um, Beyonce headlined the one stage that year, and I think the thing with that was, you know, obviously from a dancer's perspective, like I appreciate what she's done, like
Of
to
course.
help us with our work.
Yeah.
And I know it goes both ways. Like I know the choreographer that did Single Ladies. I trained at Monsters
Wow.
with him. I've also taken class from him. He actually, after he got casted into the one show I got nominated for the 4 times, he nominated me after the fact. Like it, and
Wow.
that was like we weren't friends on that front. Like I think he just knew that I had been around in the monster scene for a while and knew I'd been working
Right.
hard. The song that he did for the audition was "Suit and Tie" by Justin Timberlake. So just a little fun circle back to that, and
Right.
also to say that the dancer of the two of us has not seen Justin Timberlake in concert yet. I was supposed
It's
to, and
it's
that's
funny.
another story for another time.
It's funny how,
Um,
that I saw him, that it's not a genre or person I would really would typically see, but you haven't seen him, where it's like more of your genre, and type of thing, to be like, yeah, I saw him like X amount of times.
right, and I like to say that I've been like to Nashville and I've been to Graceland, like to see like all the Elvis stuff.
Yeah.
Um, it's all things that need to be on your list of
Yeah.
things to do as a musician. Like you would want me to see Justin Timberlake, obviously, and people have told me like, dude, what are you doing? But
It should, that, like you just said, it should definitely be on your bucket list, because he can put on a hell of a show.
yeah, I think outside of like Beyonce headlining and just standing there in the crowd, and then out of nowhere, Jay-Z just walks in front of me. And I was
Oh,
just like,
jeez.
what?
Huh?
Eh? That was weird. I mean, surrounded by security, obviously, but like
Yeah.
he looked so much smaller in person. Like he was just like,
Really. Hmm.
yeah, but I don't know. Outside of that, my first concert was Ozfest in 2003. Headlining stage was Chevelle, uh, Disturbed, Merlin Manson, Korn, and Ozzy Osbourne. So like having been able to see them, and again, that's a half a lifetime ago for me at this point. But I
Chevelle is
think,
so good live. I saw them at the
oh
Fillmore. Oh my god, that I can't say one of my favorite, but they were so good, because I
yeah.
listened to a lot when I was a kid, and I got to see them with a buddy of mine, and I was like, wow, why have I been missing out on seeing these guys for so long?
Well, and how did they not get bigger than that? Like they
Yeah.
they not that they weren't like popular, but they I think they could have gone an extra step ahead of that.
And
But
did you know, like the three of them, they're all brothers?
I
Did you?
didn't know that.
They're all brothers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
and that's like that was I and that took me a little bit to realize that too. But when I saw that, I was like, wow, that makes that band even crazier. That like they're all like, if not all of them, two out of the three were brothers.
Okay.
If not all three, I definitely know a good majority of them were brothers. But yeah,
Yeah. So I think too, it being my first concert and it being a festival, and it was like a rock festival,
yeah,
which I was getting into, like you said, my older sister Kim, her boyfriend at the time was a drummer for like a metal band.
uh huh,
So I got introduced to a lot of that scene through them. Um, so I got introduced, and then, like you said, I introduced you to like a lot of that stuff.
yeah.
Um, Most notably, not mentioned in episode one, I don't believe, was Limp Bizkit. That was like,
I know. I don't know why we've gone through
ah,
3 episodes and haven't even talked about them.
and they were like to us, we played their stuff, and we were like, this is so cool.
Yeah,
Think what you want. I love
right.
when
There's
when
so many people out there like, screw Fred Durst, screw this band. They're awesome. If you don't like
yeah,
them,
sorry.
cool. Me and Jim love Limp Bizkit.
Yeah,
This is going
sure.
online. We're out there.
Yeah. Well, and two, was it Lollapalooza in Chicago that they were just playing at? And then
I think so. Yeah.
and you sent me the video, and you're like, here's the whole thing, and you were at work, and we were watching it, and we were
Yeah.
like, dude, he's
Still got it.
clearly he's still got it. He's aged mildly, but like not to the point
new
where like he
album.
can't do it.
The new album is awesome. You know,
See, I didn't even know they had one.
yeah, they just put it out either early last year, like late last year, like within November, December or something like, or October, November, December, or something in the last like quarter of the year. But they
Okay.
have like the old Limp Bizkit feel to them, along with a modernized version. So
Nice.
I feel they hit the spectrum with old fans and new fans will be able to love the album. And Fred can still put down some rhymes, I'll tell you that. I mean,
Nice.
for the style and the new metal genre that they started, they still got it, you know, and
That's awesome.
take it how you is. I mean, Wes Borland has some pretty basic guitar styles, but the dude can wail. I mean, and he's never been a technical guitar player. I think we can all kind of agree a lot of his music is not like technical like, to the point. It just sounds like he's making a bunch of wacky, really out there type of sounds, but that's his style, and I think that's what makes that, when you hear Wes Borland playing a lot of those things, that's a Limp Bizkit type of style song.
Right. Well, and perfect. Good. So to segue us into next week, when you talk about Wes Borland not being the most technically inept, but he's still great at what he does, it made me think of Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he's not everybody's favorite because like maybe his wrestling technique isn't all the way there.
Right.
But he knows how to sell.
And I think that's why he was the way he was. I mean, like you just say, he may have not been the wrestler that was up on the top rope and doing flips, and he may have not had the match of the night, but you remembered the match. You remember probably what he did or said, because he was.
He could do one thing. He could look at someone one way, and he'd be like, "This guy."
Right.
And that was it.
He
it.
had the entertainment level down. Like when it was The Rock and Austin, I mean, they had some great matches, but that promo that everybody always goes back to, WrestleMania,
Limp Bizkit, my way.
Yeah. that promo hits, slaps, whatever you modernized people say today. it
Slaps
it
is
slaps.
kind of,
It
yeah.
slaps all the slaps.
I think
Slaps.
slaps. I think Chris Jericho actually posted on Facebook. He said, "I think this is the greatest wrestling promo, promo video for a match of all time." And
to me, yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely,
that's the
if
one.
not the number one, it's top 3.
It's got to be. I mean, I when I think about iconic Mania moments, we should maybe reserve these.
I was gonna say
because
maybe we should say this.
We're gonna segue into the Royal Rumble is next Saturday night. Saturday, not Sunday. So next week's episode,
got some
for those wrestling fans. If wrestling's not for you, that's okay. You can at least tune in because we'll have other surprises along the way next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna talk some wrestling stuff because that is something that Anthony and I, have carried through our friendship all the way even until now.
Yeah.
We've dipped away from it at certain points because it got not great.
Yeah.
We've definitely been more invested when it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think next week we can definitely have some good wrestling talk since it's on the road to the Rumble and road to WrestleMania, which is always
right.
A wrestling fan's best time of year. So, the storylines, the matches that come up to the way, it's always a fun time of year. So maybe we can break down a couple of our favorite WrestleMania moments throughout these next couple episodes or something. And, if you like these things, let us know. If you want to, hear certain things, if you're a wrestling fan, let us know. But you want to wrap this up and, we can wrap this up for tonight. I think we had a pretty good, 2
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what your time check looks like for the episode. I know we were aiming for a little bit shorter of an episode. And my big thing was I wanted to talk about Point Blank this week. Anthony here actually mentioned maybe doing some wrestle talk next week, so we'll be able to get into that. Again, the number one, setpod@gmail.com. Email us anything you'd like us to dive into. And we haven't even talked about NFL playoff picture.
Yeah, we gotta.
That's something that we. I
maybe
think
as the Super Bowl gets closer, we can do something like that. Maybe Super Bowl week, we can.
Super Bowl week, we can dive into that stuff.
We could, instead of going through, because we just got off the wild card weekend. Our home team, Philadelphia Eagles, got their butts
eliminated
by the.
That's fine.
By the Bucs.
They can get back to work.
Yeah, but maybe we can do Super Bowl week. Whoever is in the Super Bowl, maybe we can, dive into our thoughts on it.
Let's just do real quick. I know you don't want to jump into everything all around, but just super fast. And listen, I am not I am just getting up to speed in football, and we can talk about that next week too.
Yeah.
Or the following, depending. I was not raised on it. I got into it because I liked to go out and be able to talk about it, and realized I don't know what I'm saying. So then I started paying attention, so that it was something that when people go out to watch the games, I didn't want to sit there and be like, I don't know football. So I have more recently gotten into it. But hey, listen, next week, division round, Bengals and Titans. Just off the top of your head, you got to pick?
From what I've seen, it seems like the Bengals are having a pretty good year. This might be their year. So if Henry, the running back on the Titans, comes in off supposedly he's coming back from his injury. If he comes back full strength, it's going to be a good game. But I might have to take the Bengals on it.
Okay, I'll go with the Titans just because I know
All right,
that
there
they
you
were
go.
pretty strong for the majority of the season. Niners, Packers.
That's gonna be a game.
I'm
Packers,
I'm just going. I just got to go with the Packers after coming off the rest. But
yeah,
it could be an upset. What?
upstate,
Upset? It could be
upstate.
an upset where, like, to me, the bye, um, and them resting makes
Yeah,
them feel comfortable. And oh, this team is beat up.
right.
When the team that was just working is ready to crush. So it will be a good game for sure. I am going to stick to the Packers. I
I think
think.
I'll stick with the Packers on that one too.
Yeah.
San Fran's doing they were doing pretty good, but I think the Packers got it. I think the Packers are gonna get it.
Rams and Buccaneers.
Uh,
That's tough to call. I mean, it's tough to go against Brady always.
yeah, it's
Um,
really tough. I mean, I think the Rams looked nice in their game the other night, but it's kind of hard to go against Brady during playoff season. When he's dialed in, there's no stopping Brady. So I might have to go with the Bucks.
yeah, and I mean, I'll come back to the reason why I like, and I'm not just picking the Bucks because I want them to win specifically for this next thing, but I think they'll do it. The last game is the Bills and the Chiefs,
Chiefs.
and Chiefs, you can't go against Mahomes. So I
I, I
will take.
I think the Bills are doing pretty good. I think they're having a breakout year too, but I'm looking I'm looking hoping for the Chiefs to get another Super Bowl run.
See, and here's the thing is, I'm kind of two ways about this, where I would love to see the Bills go against the Bucks
Yeah,
at the Super Bowl, because if you're the Bills and you got all those Super Bowl losses underneath of you, if you're gonna get a good win, and Bill Burr was just talking about this.
I was just gonna
It's
say he was talking about it too.
you
That's
get it against Tom Brady.
you got to
Yeah.
go against Tom Brady to get it. They're looking they want that. So if they get it,
Yeah.
that'll be a game to watch.
Yeah. And I don't see the Bengals or the Titans going all the way to the Super Bowl. So that's why I'm like, I think the Titans could do it, but then I think that they'll fall to either the Bills or the Chiefs, depending on who wins that one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that Bills and they're getting fun. I mean, the Bengals and Titans game I care about the least. The Niners and Packers, I have an instinct that the Packers are going to take it. The Rams and Bucks game I think is also going to be fun, but I think that the Bucks are going to take it. The Bills Chiefs game I think is the hardest one to call.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting. But
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up on that note.
we got to get out of here.
We got to get out of here. Yeah. Look, Anth, as always, thank you so much. Again, the listeners, we thank you so much for your time. The number one setpod@gmail.com is how you can get a hold of us. Any feedback, anything that you don't like about the show, even
Absolutely.
we're not strangers to criticism. We want to know, hey, what would you like to see us do more so of? Less so of. But social media, again, One Set Pod, Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. If you are unable to YouTube us, you can catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. One Set Pod. Yeah. Anth, did I miss anything?
I think you hit all the points there correct, my friend. So
I'm learning.
we'll have all
I'm
the
learning from the
links
best.
We'll have all the links in the description, so you guys can listen and follow us wherever. We're getting our social media game up every week with putting in some clips of the episodes and little behind the scenes as our weeks go by, and we hope to continue to have you guys join and follow along with us. So here's to another episode, guys. Thank you. And when you guys are seeing this, it'll be Friday. So happy Friday. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. My best friend, buddy, cheers to you.
Cheers to you, my guy. Thank you
Cheers,
so
everybody
so
watching.
much.
All the love, guys.
All the love.